This is probably going to be the most important and helpful twin flame video that I've ever done for you guys. Today, we're going to discuss many of the different twin flame myths. And it's very important for you to understand the underlying reason why these are myths, because when you do understand why these are myths, you could actually do something about your situation. You could actually get your twin flame to unblock you, come back to you, stop rejecting you, right? You can get them to stay permanently in your life. My twin flame, of course, is permanently in my life. And I'm also the leading twin flame coach. I've coached well over 3,000 people. I've helped more people get their twin flame to come back than any other coach. So I believe I have some very useful insight into what to do about your situation. And the first thing you need to do is let go of all these myths. And again, when you understand the underlying reason why these are myths, that's when this will start to make sense to you and you can actually do something about your situation. So the number one twin flame myth is that this is somehow like soulmates. You know, it's supposed to be like a romantic relationship. I'm not saying that you can't be in that way with your twin flame, but that's not the purpose, okay? When you meet another person who, you know, we used to refer to that as a soulmate, right? And there's different types of soulmates. You know, they could be a family member, it could be a really close friend or a lover, but obviously I'm talking about the type of soulmate where you are lovers, right? So when you meet someone who normally we would call a soulmate, a romantic interest, there's a reciprocation and you guys love each other and it's beautiful and magical and everything flows and it's all perfect and you guys are meant for each other, etc., etc. And that's beautiful. And I'm not even saying that you can't experience something like that with your twin flame. But when you look at this, like the purpose is to be with this person, that's where the trouble starts. When you focus on this person, did you ever notice how that's when they resist you? They run away. They don't seem to want to talk to you anymore. They ghost, right? And ordinarily, like with a soulmate type lover, that's perfectly all right. As a matter of fact, they like that. They want you to focus on them. They want your attention, right? And so you give them that attention and that love and they reciprocate. Okay, well, with your twin flame, everybody watching knows it seems to work quite the opposite. And actually, there's probably several of you, probably almost all of you watching can vouch that whenever you took your attention off that person, off your twin flame, that's when they came back. And that's exactly how, for example, my coaching system starts. That's like step one. I help you take your attention off the person, off your twin flame. And the darndest thing happens. They come back. They unblock people and they start making love confessions. Okay, well, here's the reason for that. You and your twin flame are the same soul. Okay, you are a body, mind, soul, right? Okay, so if you are the same soul, you must do as the soul does. And the soul is being. And I've made plenty of videos about this. I'm not going to go too deep into that setup right now. You can just go watch my other videos. Just go through the videos section of my channel and have a look around. And I'll espouse the underlying philosophy, you know, body, mind, soul, how that works and why it's important. Because it's very important. Okay, all you have to do is understand how the soul and the mind work. And when you do, you start to shift energetically out of your mind and into soul, which when you boil it all down, when you do that, that makes this traditional Zen spiritualism. That's all this is. That's all this is. You just treat this like your spiritual journey where you're aligning with consciousness, the soul, which is your twin flame, by the way, and energetically shifting out of the mind or ego personality as your primary mode of self-identification. You shed those layers of belief that I am this personality entity. That's who I am. That's where I derive my sense of self from. And instead, be the consciousness that you already are. You already are the self, which is your soul, which is your twin flame. Now, if I energetically shift into the energy of my soul, which is my twin flame, what do you think's going to happen? Right, they're going to come back to you because you shifted energetically into your soul. Now, the mind is externalized. The mind is only capable of seeing things that appear to be outside of itself, okay? A thought is nothing more than your ability to focus on something that appears to be external to you. Listen to that again. The mind is your ability to focus on something that appears to be external to you. But there is a you, the consciousness, the soul, okay? But whenever there is focus on something out there somewhere, that's thought, that's the mind. And I'm not saying that's bad, but that's just what that is. Well, when you believe, when your very sense of self is derived from the mind, the personality, the ego, all it can do is focus on this person, your twin flame. And that energy actually causes them to run away. It pushes them away because you believe that there is an other person. And that might not make sense to you right now because you're trying to understand it. You're trying to figure it out with your mind. And that's not going to work. This is not a journey of the mind. It's a journey of the soul. So you can't understand it. All you can do is go in here to where your soul is, where you already are one with your twin flame. You're not separate from them, okay? There's one of you. There's one of you. So this is very different from a soulmate connection. The purpose of this is not for you to be with them, okay? You may go through your spiritual ascension, which is what this is, your other self, as I like to call them, your other self, because they're you, your twin flame, your other self, they initiate this spiritual awakening for you, okay? After that takes place, you don't actually need the physical person. You just have to notice that the mind is there pushing this person away, fixating on this person, focusing on them, telling the story, telling the narrative about this person. And that's the energy that causes them to run away from you. So you notice that the mind is doing that, but did you notice that you are the noticer? You are the consciousness. You are the soul, which is your twin flame. And the better you get at being the noticer, being the observer of your own mind, you shift energetically deeper into that consciousness of soul, which is your twin flame. And then guess who shows up? Right, your twin flame. They will start talking to you again. They'll unblock you, etc. Right? So right there, right off the bat, I mean, I've already spent 8.5 minutes on this one, but this is probably the biggest myth there is, okay? You can get this person to come back, but you just have to stop treating it like it's soulmates. And that's a problem in the general twin flame community, so-called twin flame community, okay? There's a lot of people on the internet who are confused, okay? They are in a soulmate relationship, and the term twin flame just sounds very endearing, okay? It sounds like a nice term. It sounds very endearing, very romantic. And they go, oh, you must be my twin flame. I love you so much. And then they get up there and they start making videos about their relationship, and they think they're trying to help you, right? They're not really trying to do anything wrong, but they're not. They're not helping you, okay? They're just confused, guys, which brings me to the second myth, the twin flame couples. The twin flame couples. And again, I'm not here to talk bad about anybody, but guys, I see there's a lot of you out there that are really struggling with this journey. You're really trying to figure out what the hell is happening to you. Why is this happening to me? And looking at that information, it's not helping. It's not helping. What you're looking at is a soulmate couple who love each other very much, and that's beautiful, but they're confused, guys. They think twin flames is what they're doing or what they are, and that's not what this is. It's not this romantic connection where both people reciprocate, okay? Twin flames is where the person comes in to trigger your spiritual awakening, and it's your job to embrace that spiritual awakening. Now, if you embrace the spiritual awakening instead of the person, that's when the person does come back, okay? So it's like it works the opposite of soulmates. And again, with a soulmate, you can focus on the other person and they like that. They want to come back, okay? Soulmates, I guess you could say it is based on the personality. It is based on the mind. There's my personality, there's your personality. We're compatible. We like it when we reciprocate each other's love. And that's beautiful, and there's nothing wrong with that. But guys, that's not what this is, okay? So watch out for the twin flame couples. That's a big, big one. And it's kind of a problem out there. And again, I don't think anybody means to do anything wrong, but they're not helping you. They're just confused, guys. That's just not what this is, okay? This is your spiritual journey. And if you treat it that way, that's when your twin flame does come back to you. Okay, myth number 3, mission. Now, if you want to carry out a mission, there's no problem with that. You can do that if you want. Here's the problem. It's this belief system, which is the mind. It's thought, a belief. And this is your soul's journey. The soul is consciousness. Consciousness is not thought. Okay? So a journey of consciousness, a journey of the soul, is necessarily not a belief system. Okay? So there can be no belief systems about this, especially mission. If you want to carry out a mission, if you feel like you have some purpose in life and you want to go for that, please, by all means, do that. You're only going to help the human race. But it's when you accept the belief that you're required to carry out some mission in order to get your twin flame back. If I don't complete my mission, I'll never be with my twin flame again. And right there, you've already made the purpose of this to be with your other person, your other self, your twin flame. So you've made the goal them, your twin flame. And again, you can't do that. As soon as you focus on the person, that's what pushes them away. You've got to focus on your soul, guys. Okay? You take all of your focus off the person because that's your mind. Your mind is externalized. The mind is what focuses on everything out there, but that's what pushes your twin flame away. You have to stop seeing them as separate from you. The mind is what sees this person as separate from you, okay? But you're not. So the only thing you can do is go in here to where the soul is, which is your twin flame. The soul doesn't see them as separate from you, guys. Your soul knows that it's not separate from your twin flame because it is your twin flame. The mind is what sees them as separate. And so the mind is what tells you things like, I've got to complete this mission. I got to carry out all this stuff. Guys, that's a bunch of dogma, okay? That's like a religion kind of thing. And I'm not even saying religion is bad, but this is a journey of consciousness. Consciousness is not thought, guys. It's not a belief system. It's not dogma. It's not religion. It's just existence. That's consciousness, okay? And again, this is traditional Zen spiritualism. This is like 10,000-year-old stuff, right? This is ancient, okay, it turns out. And if you just treat it that way, if you treat it like your spiritual journey, that's when the person does come back. So there's no mission, guys. If you want to do one, go for it. Please do, actually. I'm sure the human race could use all the help it can get. But if you don't want to carry out a mission, you don't have to. That's not the purpose of this. This is your spiritual journey, and you're under no obligation to do anything for anyone. But here's the ironic thing. When you embrace your spiritual ascension journey and work to increase your consciousness, you're still helping everybody on the planet. But you're just doing your journey. You're doing it for you. You want to feel better. You want to increase your consciousness. You want to experience Zen and bliss. But when you do that, you put that energy out there of consciousness. So it turns out you're still helping everybody around you, but it's not externalized. That's the thing about consciousness that people don't get, is there's not something you have to do out there somewhere to get that to work for you and for the rest of the planet. You just mind your own journey. You're concerned with your own well-being and your own consciousness and getting out of the ego, and that does help everybody else out, it turns out. So it's a win-win for everybody. Okay, number 4, healing. There's no healing on this journey. Now, I'm not saying that healing is bad. Okay, if you want to do some things that seem therapeutic to the mind, you can do that, okay? The soul does not need healing, okay? Your personality ego might. There could be some things in your past that happened, something from childhood. We all have those things. We all have difficulties and struggles that happened in the past that seem to affect us now. They seem to cause the belief that you're less, okay? And if you want to work through those things, go for it. I personally, I'm going to go for the teaching of, say, Buddha or Eckhart Tolle or Jesus, where they point out, you're not your personality, you're not your mind, you're not the ego. The ego is what runs this narrative. The ego is this identity of self, this form, this accumulation of retained thought and emotional patterns. And over time, as you progress into your adult life, you retain more and more of these beliefs and memories and emotions, and it starts to constitute your very sense of self. But the truth is, that was never the self. That was never who you really are. Who you really are is life, life itself, the soul, consciousness. The soul is not damaged, guys. The soul is not broken. It's just there existing. It's when we add all these onion layers of beliefs about who I am. I am this personality who experienced all these negative things in the past. Therefore, I am someone who is broken and needs healing. That's the ego. And I'm not even saying that's bad, but that's exactly what's going on. Okay? You're not broken. You simply have a case of mistaken identity. Everybody here should type that affirmation down in the comments section below right now. I'm not broken. I simply have a case of mistaken identity. The mind believes it's broken, and for your whole life, you've believed you were your mind. The personality, that's where you derived your sense of self from. And the ego personality believes it's damaged and broken. But what if it wasn't true that you are your personality? Well, good news. It is true. You are not your personality. You are this eternal being, this conscious presence, the soul, okay? And it's not a belief system. It's not thought, consciousness, the soul, okay? It's consciousness. Consciousness is not thought, and it's always perfectly whole, and it's who you really are. So you don't need to fix yourself. You don't need to fix the mind. You can if you find it therapeutic, if you find it helpful, by all means, do what you think is best. But again, myself personally, Eckhart Tolle, Abraham Hicks, Alan Watts, just to name a few, right? They're going to tell you, you are not your mind. You're not your personality. Therefore, you're not broken. You just have a case of mistaken identity. You are already whole and complete. You don't really need healing. Okay, now there's some people that maybe have had such trauma in their past that it's very, very difficult for them to switch energetically from deriving their sense of self through the personality and into the soul. It's much more difficult. Hey, maybe some kind of psychological healing would be useful. I'm not a psychologist, so you need to talk to a professional about that. Don't listen to me, whether that's right for you or not. But what I can tell you is, as the teaching goes in traditional Zen spiritualism, you're not your mind. And as soon as you stop believing you are the personality, you are this history, you are this story of who I am. I've done all these things, I've been all these places, I've had all these experiences, blah, 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 that narrative, that story. Okay, once you stop believing that constitutes who you are, and instead recognize that you are the conscious being under the thought, remember, body, mind, soul, You're the soul. You start to feel better as soon as you switch your belief about who you really are. Okay, so you're not broken, guys. You don't need healing. That's a myth. Okay, you really don't. You already are whole and complete. You just have a case of mistaken identity. That's all it is, guys. Last but not least, the myth that you need your twin flame to carry out your spiritual ascension. You don't. You don't need the physical person. What does happen is they come in, they trigger the awakening process, right? There's the little bubble phase at the beginning. It lasts a few weeks or a month or two, right? And then they start to pull away, they start to resist you, and that sends you into this downward spiral, which we call the dark night of the soul, or in traditional Zen spiritualism, they call that ego death. Same thing. Okay, so that initiates your spiritual awakening. The ego breaks down, it melts away, it's dying. The ego is dying. And when things die, it fucking hurts, okay? And the ego is dying. That's why it's so painful going through that dark night of the soul experience, that ego death. It's extremely difficult. Mine lasted for 6 months before I really started to pull out of it, okay? But here's the thing. When the dust settles, you rise from the ashes. It's your spiritual awakening. The ego has to be washed away and taken away so that the energy of your conscious being, your soul, can rise. Okay, that's what this is. And you don't need the physical person to do that. And as a matter of fact, most people who undergo ego death or dark night of the soul, as we call it, they haven't met their twin flame. Most people do not. Okay, most people simply, they have an experience in life. Let's take Eckhart Tolle, for example. Perfect example. He didn't meet his twin flame, okay? His ego death was triggered by his life circumstances. You know, he lost everything. You know, he already had some kind of psychological issues, anxiety, right? And it was that one event in his life that kind of like pushed him over the edge and caused that breakdown of his ego. And then he got out of bed the next day and he was just completely in a state of bliss, pure consciousness, pure Zen, no presence of ego whatsoever. Okay, that's a spiritual awakening where you energetically are aligned with your soul. You've shifted out of the ego and you feel better. You feel bliss, Zen, total peace, intense peace. And of course, you affect the people around you because your consciousness is so extreme and so powerful and beautiful. And people see your light. You don't need the physical person to do that. They do trigger the awakening, okay? But once they've triggered the awakening, their job is done. And if you just, guys, embrace your spiritual ascension, get out of your ego, get out of the mind, and be the conscious presence that you are, that person will come back anyway, your twin flame. You don't need them to do your spiritual awakening journey. And again, most people don't even meet their twin flame who awaken spiritually. So there you go, guys. There's the 5 major myths. The 5 major myths of twin flames. And again, if you understand the underlying reason for why these myths are true, or why these myths are the true myths, that's when you can do something about your situation once and for all with this person. But again, the thing is the whole basis that makes these myths is that all those things, all those myths, that's all mind stuff, guys. That's all belief systems. That's all thought-based. And I'm not even saying that's bad, but that's what that is. But the mind can't help you here, guys. This is not a journey of the mind. This is a journey of the soul. This is a journey of being the true self. Okay, this is your soul's journey. So embrace your soul's journey. Be the conscious presence that you already are. And leave behind the damaged belief systems of the mind. Start to see yourself for who you really are. And your twin flame will come back. You don't even need to worry about the person. Just mind your own soul, guys. That's the truth of this. The twin flame journey is really just the true spiritual journey. Thanks for watching.